Welcome to the first episode of the interactive podcast, Curious Now, from the Center for Medical Simulation. Here, you're going to be able to develop skills, mindsets, and frameworks to use good judgment in the most demanding environments in your life. Also, everyday challenges. On this podcast, we'll give you an assignment each week and want to hear back from you on how you're using it day to day. Our goal is to use the skills and values of simulation to get better at getting better in everyday life. I'm Jenny Rudolph. I'm an organizational behavior scholar who's passionate about learning, also connecting with myself and the other humans through curiosity and experimentation. This interactive program is rooted in over 20 years of working with high-performance teams in the ICU, the operating room, the emergency room, across the Harvard hospitals and healthcare systems worldwide. From the operating room to the bedside, from the exam room to the boardroom, we've learned that delivering exceptional care to patients and to each other requires more than technical expertise. So part of what we're going to bring here is what we've learned about working in high-stakes healthcare settings. It's about holding yourself and others to high standards while also maintaining high regard for every person in the room, including yourself. It's about practical tools you can use in the trenches of everyday work, whether you're navigating a tense team meeting, calming an irate colleague, or trying to figure out why your department feels like a perpetual game of whack-a-mole. We're going to invite you to tackle your toughest and most persistent interpersonal, team, or organizational challenges. We structure this journey so that the challenges you face as a person become portals for growth and performance improvement. What my own practice and research has given me is a set of tools grounded in cutting-edge research, in interactive learning, and our unique approach to coaching. You'll gain some clarity, I hope, and confidence and capacity to cultivate psychological safety within yourself, helping yourself feel safe or safer, helping other people feel psychologically safe or safer, build trust and excellence around you in your teams. So real change takes time. We hope that you'll join us, whether you're struggling with something, whether it's a combative colleague, a demoralized team, or just trying to get through Monday without throwing your coffee at the wall. In this podcast, we're going to be providing kind of a first touch or first exposure to a lot of key practices, mysteries, principles, find ways to develop the habits of reflection and improvement in everyday life. So in the next few weeks, what we're going to start with is the foundations of good judgment. And the focus is going to be building a foundation for internal clarity and self-trust as the bedrock for relational dynamics. And so what I mean by that is, how do we strengthen a calm within us, if not unshakable, at least steady, so that when we hit the turmoil or winds of challenge as we interact with other people, it's easier to keep our own balance and keep our own direction. We're going to start where you are, thinking about how do you reflect on judgment? How do you become aware of when you are judging? Then we're going to move on to what are the kinds of things that trigger you? Then we'll explore what meaning are you making of those triggers? What are your own cognitive frames and feelings, cognitive routines, emotional reactions regarding those triggers? Thinking about your judgments, your triggers, and your frames as a kind of metaphorical trailhead to help you figure out what you need to work on and where you need to go. So how do you get curious about you? All right, well, let's jump into our workout of the week. What are we going to be starting with? Perhaps not surprisingly, we're going to start with judging. I know most of us try to suppress our judging or run away from judging. But what I've found is if we can make friends with our judgments, they have a lot less control of us. So what are we going to do? We're going to work on a skill ultimately at the end of this session called mental noting. But before we get there, we're going to talk about what exactly is judging, what are the costs and benefits of judging, and then I'll offer a way to approach that and develop our muscles around recognizing our own judgments and making friends with them. So why would anybody want to do this? Why would we want to make friends with our judgments? Why would we want to become more aware of our judgments? I think that when we want to have the most positive impact in the world, where we are using our authentic voice and power to move things forward that we care about, or to connect more with the people we care about, or to help repair situations that are difficult, it's really great not to be derailed by your own unconscious cognitive routines or unhelpful emotional reactions. So starting with something so common, so ubiquitous, like our own judging, strengthens the muscles of becoming aware in that way. And it lets us get out of our own way to be able to do the things we want to do the most, connect with the people we want to connect with the most. So let's talk about judging. When my colleagues and I at the Center for Medical Simulation first started working with the idea of debriefing with good judgment, our problem was we really didn't know what to do exactly with our own harsh judgments, the fact that we sometimes hid our judgments, and trying like heck to find some kind of humane way to connect with another person while retaining our judgment about a standard that might not have been met. And so there's a lot of really interesting work about why do we judge? And I want to share a little bit of that with you. So first of all, the recent work by Robert Sapolsky from Stanford University looks at how our judgments, among other things, are determined. And that is our biology from long ago, our current hormonal, fatigue, hemodynamics, autonomic nervous system, it's all playing out in the moment, our cultural norms, what we learned in our family, what's normal for our profession, all those things determine how we react to certain actions by others in the moment. And one of the really interesting things is many of us, especially when we're triggered, or if you think of your own children or yourself when you were younger, when somebody does something, they made me mad, they made me do it, is how it feels to us. We're not really aware that there's a stimulus and then a response that we actually have some ultimate control over. It feels so automatic. And that automaticity in our judging and our deciding is beautifully studied for many decades in the field of cognitive heuristics. And if you think about the Nobel laureate Danny Kahneman, he talks about when we think fast and when we think slow. And when we think fast is when we're running up the ladder of inference, we're quickly coming to a conclusion, we're making a judgment. And again, there's that feeling of turbocharged speed that we can't really control or be a master of. And that can sometimes get us in trouble. Judging, however, is a really great part of why we're alive today as humans. So, as far back as Charles Darwin, looking at how natural selection helped the humans who could make good decisions, who were discerning. We often talk about discernment as bias, and that leaves out the really important idea that, like, if there's something bad happening, if a person has a frowny face, or if you were on the savannas as an early hominid and you heard a growling noise, it's good that you have a bias that that's dangerous. So the challenge for us is to recognize when that automatic decision-making is serving us well, or that automatic decision-making is not serving us so well, and we know when to slow down, allow our prefrontal cortex, our parasympathetic system, all those things to kind of come into play to allow us to breathe, cogitate, and make a little bit more of a deliberate decision if needed. The tension between the benefits of that automaticity and the costs of that automaticity is what this week's workout of the week is about. It's about how do we recognize when we're judging so that we can just become aware of the patterns and have a little more choice. In those moments when we automatically judge, how do we enhance our awareness of that judging practice? One of the things I'd like to introduce to us, or for those of you who already may have a meditation practice of some sort, is the concept of mental noting. So our judgments just float up unbidden, bubbling up from a little soup of our mind. And all we want to do is note those judgments when they come up and just label them. The very simplest way to do that is just to simply say, judging, judging, judging. I first got some training on this from one of my meditation teachers when I was rowing crew because I really wanted to improve my concentration. And he coached me to say, well, first of all, you have to even know what your thoughts are doing. And I remember walking through Harvard Square as an undergraduate and noting that I judged everybody who walked by me what their outfit was. Like it was either a good outfit or a bad outfit, a dorky outfit, a fashionable outfit, something I liked, something I didn't like. And, by the time I'd walked 3 blocks, I was just chuckling and laughing at myself because I had no idea how judgmental I was about people's attire. But the experience was very liberating because gradually I got a little space between what I thought and the thoughts themselves. Instead of believing everything I thought, I suddenly realized, oh, those are little thoughts just bubbling up. They just happen to be judgments. So that's the skill we'd like to invite you to work on this week, is just noting your judgments. Now, here's a tricky piece. We invite you to not throw a second dart at yourself. And the second dart is a concept from Buddhist practice, which is don't judge your judging, or don't judge yourself for whatever you've noticed about yourself. So have compassion. We all judge. It's a natural thing. It's valuable even. It helps us get through the day. It helps us do our work. We're just going to become more aware of it. We invite you to just notice it throughout the day. And if this is fun for you, you could maybe even start kind of some sort of a counter of how many times you judge if you do notice that. Give yourself the opportunity to even reflect back on the last hour. Did I judge anything in that hour? Oh, interesting. And then lastly, we'd love to hear about your judgments. If you want to email us at curiousnow@harvardmedicine.org. We'd love to hear what judgments are coming up or how many or what the process is like for you. If you want to comment on Center for Medical Simulation social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, we'd love to hear what your experience is like. What's the mental noting been like for you? How many times did you judge? What kind of judgments? Hope you have a great workout. Don't throw any second darts at yourself. And hope you're curious now.
Curious Now with Jenny Rudolph. A social scientist takes on the hidden structures that shape our behavior, communication, culture, and learning. Underneath the surface of intelligent, capable people who care about doing their best are hidden patterns that interfere with how they perform. Hierarchy, ego, communication glitches, resilience, power, professional learning all flow downstream into creating actions that work and actions that don't. Whether trying to figure out a tricky diagnosis, discovering what a learner is thinking, or upping your own clinical mastery, getting curious now is the solution.